This is Lifted You Weight Loss with Annie Jensen, episode number 24, Little Changes, Big Impact. Hello, darling. I'm Annie, and I'm here to connect with you. I know we understand each other. We show up, we live hard, and you and I do all of it, carrying the same burden. But here is the most beautiful truth that I've learned over years of struggling with my weight. We do not have to live with this burden. So come with me because you are not alone in this. I'm ready to share everything. My story, my friendship, and every piece of value I've gathered along the way. My purpose is to lift you as you move forward on your own path to light, loving, and lasting weight loss and build something that finally works for you. Darling, there is a life waiting for you on the other side of this process. So let's ease this burden. Let's build what's already within you. Together we'll create a lighter, lifted you. I have been thinking about you a lot this week, and let me tell you why. I think about you a lot all the time, but particularly this last week, because if you'll recall, I shared kind of my plan to move forward to lose this last 15 to 20 pounds. We talked about my specific plan and talked about you coming up with a basic plan or idea that works for you. And then we had a big, happy July 4th celebration weekend. And during the weekend, I kept thinking, I want to say that it went amazing, that my plan is working and that I'm following through with everything. And it has not been bad. It's actually been good, but it was not as great as I had hoped it was. And I believe I have shared that I am a type B perfectionist, which I know sounds silly, but it's true. I have this perfectionistic streak in me that I have learned about, I can recognize, but I still do it. And so I wanted this week to be so great and to lose, 3 pounds or something like that. And it was okay, but let me share with you how it actually went. Now, if you'll remember, I said I wanted to stay at a 0 on the hunger scale, that tracking is not my favorite thing, and I want to be able to live by those internal cues. Well, let me share with you how that went this first week into my renewed effort to lose this last little bit of weight. And then I will tie this all into today's episode, which is entitled Little Changes, Big Impact. Well, this being a holiday week, a holiday weekend, made things more difficult, as that often does. I did not stay at a 0. I certainly got more full feeling. But I'll also say I really didn't get above a +2, maybe a +3 very often at all. So that was a good thing. I did relearn about myself that tracking just may be necessary for me as I am actively losing weight. I know that I can maintain without tracking. Losing weight may just be a different story for me. So here is where the little changes, big impact concept is going to come in today. Do you remember all the drama that I shared with you about tracking last week? How I don't like it. It's overwhelming. It's not naturally what I want to do. All of those things are true. However, am I capable? Yes. Is it what I may need to do to be accountable and to see what's really going into my body and what's real? Also, yes. So I am left here asking myself, what small changes do I need to make in my mind and about this plan to track that can make it feel appealing and possible to me and make it feel lighter so that I want to do it and don't feel so heavy and dread tracking? So I asked myself, what about tracking is hard for me? What about it do I not like? And I came up with a few answers. I believe number one for me is that it's inconvenient. I don't like stopping. I don't like putting it in. I like just doing what I want to do in the moment. Well, I may need to have a little bit more self-discipline than that, and that's okay. I can exercise that muscle. I can exercise that ability in my life. I also feel like I have sent the message to myself with tracking that I can't be in control. So I need to write it down, I need to track things, and I need to make sure that I stay in control. It feels a little bit like a punishment to me, like something that somebody who can't keep track of their weight, can't control their food intake, does so that they can start to be in control. Does that make sense? I want to be that person who doesn't need to. But that doesn't mean anything about me, and it just means that it may be a tool that will be really useful for me right now. So when I stop and I think of it as a tool for me in the moment, in the next few months to get to where I need to be, then I'm okay with that. I even went so far as to think of a different name for it. So in my mind, for years and years, tracking has been a food log, a tracker in MyFitnessPal, a points tracker in a Weight Watchers app, a calorie tracker, something like that. So what small change can I make to the idea of tracking, to the name of it in my head, that can resonate with my doer and make me feel like I want to do it more, like I want to use this tool? It's not something that I have to do because I am the way I am. Well, one of the main reasons that I feel I do need to track my food right now is that I need to be honest about what's going into my body. And not because I'm intentionally being abstract or dishonest, but just because those details get lost in the day. When we're not paying close attention and when I am not following that hunger scale so closely, I eat more than I planned and that I think that I have. I think that that's pretty typical for most people. So what I've decided to call it, and I may change it, it sounds a little cheesy to me, but it also really works in my brain, is just my honest log. And the reason that I chose that name is because it's going to tell me what's really going on, what I'm really consuming, when I'm eating what I'm eating. It's going to give me data. And there's another little change right there, is that if I can just see it as data and not as meaning, then I can use it as the tool that it's meant to be. I really believe that one of the reasons I've hated tracking is because I felt like I couldn't do it. I couldn't do the eating less. I couldn't make a plan and stick to it, or I'd do it for a little while and then I'd totally screw up and then it all meant something about me. But I know that's not true now. I know it's about habits and it's about planning and it's about choices, but it's not about Annie. That's the distinction that I've made. But when I think about tracking in the old way, like I've always done it, I get into that mindset, into those old thinking patterns where tracking just tells me that I suck. Tracking just tells me that I eat too much or I just don't do it. So then I just choose not to do it. But my experience this last week, particularly the weekend, told me that no, Annie, it's okay. You really may need to do it for a while because you need to paying closer attention to what's actually going in your body, how much of it is going in your body, because that is what I do to lose weight. When I lost this 65 pounds, I'll tell you, most of the time I was tracking. I was going to a Weight Watchers weigh-in and I was tracking on the app. There's real truth and validity to having some accountability and to having something that you are really watching your progress. And I love now going back and looking at that progress that I've made. Going into the app, seeing my weigh-ins, seeing it trend down, and seeing me really make real progress over the weeks and months. So at least for a while, as I make this change and start tracking and logging, I'm not going to think about it as my tracker. I'm going to think about it as my honest log, where I just get to go in there and be honest about everything and not make it mean more than some data. And now I will report to you on that, tell you how that is going. There also is truth in the fact that some people really do thrive in a data input environment and others, it's hard for them. But you know what? I can do something that's hard for me if it's going to give me the results that I need. I can live through and push through that discomfort, and I can make that discomfort comfortable for me. Now, what little changes am I going to need to make in my life to fit this tracking, this new time of intention into it as well? I can't just go from one thing to another, eating, making good choices and making sure that my hunger scale is on to really get this last weight off. I'm going to have to be more intentional than that. So what other little changes in my life that can help me make this change that will make a big impact? I'll share a couple of them with you here, and then I want to talk about a few little changes that perhaps you can make that will help make a big impact in your efforts. I'm going to have to track ahead. I really do better when I do that, and that means I need to sit and plan and be intentional. Little changes I can do with that mean that I need to be off social media a little bit more, not allow myself to indulge in that space until I have tracked either the day that I'm on or have spent time pre-tracking the day tomorrow. I've got to hold myself accountable and make that change. Little change, less time doing fun things on my phone, more time planning ahead and advocating for myself. There's another little change that can make a big impact here. When I think of this is taking care of myself, it feels different than just tracking. When I think of taking this time, putting this intention into my life, is doing something that's uncomfortable, that's taking care of myself. And I have said so many times, the uncomfortable choice, the uncomfortable moments are often what you have to choose to do in order to really take care of yourself. True self-care does not always feel good. True self-care often looks like doing the hard thing, making the sacrifice in the moment for the better, healthier, happier result in the future. So I can say those words all day long. This is a way I'm going to live it in my life. So there's a little change with a big impact right there. Little change is thinking of tracking and being intentional as taking care of myself rather than a burden that I have to deal with. How does that shift the plan in my mind? Does it feel appealing and more possible? Yes. When I know that it's really what I need to do to make it happen and that I can do it. I know I can do it. It may not feel good for the first few days because I think it's inconvenient and I just simply don't want to. But I'm a big girl. Some plans really need to feel more appealing and possible for you to do them. Tracking is not that big a deal for me. I can have the discomfort be a little bigger and a little heavier than the appealing and possible part, and my doer can still step in. I can still step up. Does that make sense? We know that our foolproof plan is it needs to be appealing, possible, and move you forward. In this case for me right now, the moving me forward is a little bit bigger than the appealing and possible. But the tracking, keep being intentional, planning, it does sound appealing because I know it's what's going to help me. And it is possible because I know that I can do it. Growth requires some of that discomfort to be in your appealing and possible plan. And that's okay. Now, I would like to share a few ideas of some small changes that I believe could bring a big impact. Some of these are physical changes, action changes, and some of them are mental. I mentioned my streak of perfectionism. I want to get to a place in my life where I really want to let good enough count for more. Am I going to have perfect days of tracking? I can tell you right now, there will be days that are not perfect. But if I track, if I do it, if I do my best and it's not perfect, it's good enough, does that count? Yes. Progress still happens even if the effort isn't perfect ever. Imperfect effort adds up to change. That is something that I feel like I maybe understood intellectually, but I can see it in my life now. Good enough is good enough, and it's going to add up to change and change you into a new you if we can recognize it and build on it. So I'm going to work on that. Good enough is good enough, and I can be 1% better tomorrow. That was a concept that blew my mind, being 1% better. There is a little mental change that can give a big impact. If we can be 1% better than we were the day before, We are going to change. And 1% is small. 1% better is doable. 1% better is appealing, it's possible, and it moves you forward. And that's where I've talked about the momentum builds faster than you think. So if you are 1% better in anything from the day before, you're going to be moving forward faster than you expected. I'll share more about this 1% better. It is pretty phenomenal wisdom. This next little mental shift, this little change that can lead to a big impact, also took me a while to embrace and understand. But changing I can't or I have to I get to decide is amazing. I can't have that candy or I can't have a piece of birthday cake at my niece's birthday party because I'm really working on losing weight is number one, not true, and number two, restrictive and counterproductive. When we restrict ourselves with the words, I can't, or I have to do this, we're just setting our brains up to push back, to fight back. The truth is, I can have what I want. I'm an adult. I can do it. You can have what you want. You're an adult. You can have it. You don't have to go on a walk. You don't have to exercise. No one is going to physically force you to do it. The key is asking yourself what you actually truly want and then making the decision and doing it. It's like those diet words from all those years ago. I can't do that. I can't do that. No, you can. The truth is that you don't really want to. And the truth is, yes, you really may want that cookie in the moment. And you know what? Having half of one or having a whole one is enough. And you can do that. When you take the restriction out of it and you give yourself the choice, it's a lot easier to make a good choice and then remove any shame or regret or guilt spirals afterward. We will also spend more time on this because I know in that moment you want it really bad, but you feel like you shouldn't. And maybe you shouldn't in that moment. But we're going to learn how to step out of that place of tension so we don't live in that moment so much. That is an exhausting place to live. So a little change that can make a big impact is removing the words I can't or I have to from your vocabulary and telling yourself you get to decide, what do you really, really want? Do you really, really want that sugar cookie? Or do you really, really want to make progress? And the truth is that you can have both. We can live that life. We can be that person. I don't want to be a person who never eats cookies, but I also can't be the person who eats 3 cookies. I can't be her anymore. And I know I don't have to be, and neither do you. Let's do a few physical examples of little changes with a big impact. I can tell you that my small physical efforts of writing in my honest food log are going to make a big difference in my progress moving forward. Little change, huge impact. Pausing. Remember, there's power in the pause. Taking that little moment, that little breath, and asking yourself, what do I actually need right now? What's going on right now? Stepping out of the moment into the present is a little change that makes a huge impact, especially when the goal is just being 1% better than you were the day before. Little change. How about having some fresh vegetables accessible in your refrigerator? Something you can just grab. Little change, big impact. Taking a 10-minute walk after dinner. That can help with your digestion. It can help your body prepare itself to wind down and get some good sleep that night. And if you do it, 3 times a week, that helps movement feel more like your regular life rather than a separate project that you're working on. Putting your phone down while you eat can help you be more present with your food. You can recognize the process of eating it. You can pay attention to your hunger cues a little bit more closely. And you might realize that you are a little bit more satisfied earlier than you may have thought. Putting our phones down while we do a lot of things might be a little change that we see makes a big impact in our lives. All right, here's the last one. Making your plan a little bit smaller. For whatever it is, your workout, your tracking, your meal plans, kind of lowering your expectations for yourself so that you feel more capable of doing them And then you are building trust with yourself that much faster. Remember, good enough is good enough. Oh my gosh, that is really hard for me. But I see it. I see the value in it. Sometimes good enough has to be really good, but it doesn't always have to be. I'm going to work on that one. Good enough is good enough. Putting your shoes on and going for a walk counts. It doesn't have to be a 3-mile walk. It doesn't have to be an elaborate plan. 10 minutes counts. Time for some final thoughts. Big change happens over time. We know this. So that means that it doesn't show up as one dramatic decision that you nail and score 100% on. For us, it's going to look like a collection of small moments where we have decided to truly care for ourselves. And I'll end there with that little mindset shift. We have to see this as we are making these choices, making these changes, because we care about ourselves. This is what we need, and we want to do it for ourselves. We want to take care of ourselves. That right there is a little change, a little mind shift that is going to make a big impact. Now, this week, see if you can't make a couple little changes that you can see making a big difference in your future. I'm going to start tracking. I will say I did lose about 1 pound this week, which is great, especially with all of the 4th of July yumminess all around me. But I want to make some real progress this next week so I can get closer to my goal. I want to get there. I can't wait to share with you when that happens. Have a wonderful week, my darling. We'll connect next week with something big and different, kind of go in a different direction. So until then, I love you and take care of yourself.